Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, I'm going to be ranking the top 15 players that the Raiders could realistically take at pick number 13 in round one of the 2024 NFL Draft. Week one of free agency is in the books. And even though I did this video probably about 2-3 weeks ago, now with some of the moves that the Raiders have made, essentially mainly at the defensive tackle position, I wanted to give you guys a new updated look at my top players that I want Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce to realistically target at pick number 13. Some of the guys that are not going to be there. And the way that I did this was I ran 10 simulations on PFF and on PFN for a mock draft. And these players were gone every single time that I did it. Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, Jayden Daniels, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Roma Dunze. So these 6 names you are not going to see in my top 15 players list because, again, this is solely based off of who the Raiders could potentially get at pick number 13. If you find yourself looking for Raiders draft videos, hit that subscribe button. We're also going to be live for the 2024 NFL Draft. Every single pick. We're also going to get the picks before you see them on TV. Sometimes we are like 3, 4, 5 picks before what you're seeing on national television. Believe it or not, the internet is quicker than TV. If you enjoyed what we did this past week for free agency, it's like that to a whole nother level during the draft. So subscribe and turn on those notifications. All right, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to work our way from 15 all the way down to 1. And the way that these players are ranked is based on Raider needs, based on talent, based on overall fit with the Las Vegas Raiders and the Las Vegas Raiders only. Let's go to number 15 here. I'm going to go Tyler Guyton, right tackle from the Oklahoma Sooners. I know that the Senior Bowl means a lot to the Raiders coaches. It means a lot to a lot of people. And actually a source that I talked to at the Combine, or I talked to a Chat Sports at the Combine, I guess I should say, said there's a lot of teams that value the Senior Bowl more than what they value the Combine. And Guyton was somebody that showed up and had himself a really solid Senior Bowl. He's 6'7", he's 327 pounds. He is a mountain of a human being. And if you're willing to risk, and when I say risk, if you're willing to put Guyton and Thayer Munford into a right tackle battle to get the most out of Guyton, then I think that would be sky's the limits for a player like that. Coming in here at number 14, it's edge Latu. And at the Combine, he spoke very highly of Max Crosby and said, that's what he's trying to get to. And I get it. Every single edge player probably wants to be the next Max, wants to be one of the best defensive ends in the National Football League. But somebody who says that they're going to be working with Crosby this offseason, I mean, that definitely intrigues me. He's a player where I do actually value him probably as more than a just top 20 overall prospect. Again, when you see these rankings, if 6 are off the board, that means Latu for me would be at number 20. Based on what the Raiders have at edge and the fact that they brought back Adam Butler, John Jenkins, Christian Wilkins, it's going to be curious to see what they do with Tyree Wilson. But if it's Max, Tyree Wilson, and then also you throw in a Malcolm Kuntz, edge is not the biggest need for this team. Let's go to number 13 on my rankings. I want to go tight end Brock Bowers. And Bowers is, in my personal opinion, a top 10 overall prospect in this year's draft. With the silver and black already signing Harrison Bryant and having Michael Mayer, Bowers would challenge Mayer to be that number 1 tight end. He would. And if he ends up falling down the board, could you see a situation where the Raiders show some interest? Yes. I just don't think that with all the other needs that this team has on the offensive line, on defense, that you decide to go out and find yourself a tight end. That's why he's ranked number 13 on my list. Coming in here at number 12, it's Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia. And this is another player that's got extreme upside. They just don't make humans at 6'7", 340 pounds that run the way that Mims does. And if you want to be an athletic team, Mims is definitely going to be one of those players. You have to have a lot of confidence in your offensive line coach, I'll admit. I want to see how the Raiders do James Craig this year, how he ends up panning out. He did have a lot of success at LSU. He had a lot of success with the 49ers. So because of that, I'm hoping that I have the same mindset of what I had in years past with Carmen Brasilla, where it was like, you want to bring in a project player? Bet, let's do it, because I have the confidence in the coaching staff to get it done. Rolling in here now at number 11, it's Jared Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. When I watch this guy's tape, he's a small school dude. I guess I should say started off at a small school, then went to Florida State and was just the best player on the field. 9 sacks, 41 tackles. If you're going to use him in the correct way, use him be stand-up, outside edge type of player. Let him pin his ears back, go north and south, get after the quarterback. I've seen some people say, oh, could he potentially be and I'll just throw it out, like a Micah Parsons type of player where he's athletic enough where he could drop him back into coverage, do some things like that occasionally? No. Don't overthink it. If you end up taking Jared Verse, he's going to challenge Malcolm Koonce, and ultimately I think would mean that the Raiders aren't 100% sold on Malcolm if they end up rolling here with Verse. So here's my question. It's going to be the pinned comment on today's show. If the Raiders pick at 13, who are you hoping that they get? And I don't want you to say Jayden Daniels because Jayden's not going to be on the board here. Caleb, Drake Maye, they're not going to be on the board at 13. Realistically, Raiders don't trade up. They don't trade back. They're on the clock at pick 13. Who are you hoping that they end up getting? Let's go to pick number 10 here, and it's Troy Fautanu, the offensive tackle / offensive lineman from Washington. The reason why that this name is intriguing and he was not originally in my top 15 prospects is because there are some scouts out that think that he could potentially play offensive guard and that he's not a right tackle. To me, what you could end up doing here is just putting a competition together between him and Thayer Munford. And what happens if Munford ends up winning the right tackle spot? You put Troy here at right guard or vice versa. He is a Henderson, Nevada native, so his name's been mentioned a ton from people that I talk to, and he's definitely a name that you got to consider for the Raiders, and he's a guy that I know that they are scouting a ton because they're also scouting a lot of quarterbacks, and you have to be scouting the entire team, right? So if you're looking at number 9 on my list, Michael Penix Jr., then you're also looking at his guy who's been protecting him for the past few seasons. But to me, the quarterback position is the biggest need that this team still needs to go out and figure out. And at pick number 13, Penix is the name that is really the only name that I want the Raiders to even consider at 13. Like, if those top 3 quarterbacks are gone, the only quarterback, and I'm going to say it again, the only QB that I would consider for the Raiders at 13 is Michael Penix Jr. Now, I'm not as high on him as some other people are in the industry. To me, I still don't love the pick at 13, hence why he would be the 9th guy on my board. But if you're the silver and black and you need yourself a quarterback, the name that I'm considering is Michael Penix Jr. But how about this? To me, there are 3 QBs that I would say Las Vegas could potentially pick at 13 and it be realistic. It's Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, or Bo Nix from Oregon. Let's just say Tom Telesco, Antonio Pierce, they look you dead in the eyes and they go, I need you to pick one. I need you to take one of these QBs. Who are you rolling with? If you're going to roll with me, type MP. If you're going to go with J.J. McCarthy, type JM. If you're going to roll with Bo Nix, give me a BN. And if you want to be an overachiever, give me the reason why you're rolling with that quarterback. Let's go to number 8 here on my list. It's edge rusher Dallas Turner from Alabama. All I'm doing here is I'm telling you that, yes, I would rather the Raiders draft Dallas Turner than Michael Penix Jr. Do I understand that the need is totally different? Yes, it is a totally different need, but I'm a lot more confident in Turner being a solid player in the NFL than I am Penix at number 13, and that's part of the way that I did this draft process. The number 1 edge in this year's class to me is Dallas Turner, and you can never have enough people trying to get after the quarterback, especially when you are dealing with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and whoever else ends up being in the AFC, because there are a lot of talented quarterbacks in the AFC. Let's go to number 7, and this is a little bit of a fall from where he was last time on my list. It's Nate Wiggins. I still view Wiggins as the number 1 overall corner in the NFL draft. However, he might not be the number 1 overall corner for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a good coverage guy, a little bit weaker in the run defense game, and based on conversations that I've had, the Raiders are looking for a little bit more of a physical cornerback one, and that's just not Wiggins' game. Like, it's not. If you're looking for a shutdown corner, I do think Wiggins in the right system can be a solid player. I still would love if the Raiders ended up taking him. I'm not sitting up here saying, oh, I wouldn't love if the Raiders took Wiggins. I would love if the Raiders took Wiggins. Just based on overall fit and mentality for what Antonio Pierce, Patrick Graham, the secondary is looking for, Wiggins is not the best fit. And he's not even a top 2 fit for the silver and black. Let's go to number 6 here, and this is where, to me, it does start to get a little bit interesting. J.C. Latham, the right tackle from Alabama. If I hear one person say that, Mitch, we can't take another Alabama guy on the right side because of Alex Leatherwood, I'm going to throw up. It's the exact same way when people are like, we can't take another LSU quarterback because of Jayden Daniels and Jamarcus Russell. They are not even close to the same prospects. Latham at 6'6", 360 pounds is light years of a better overall offensive tackle prospect than what Leatherwood was. I mean, if you watched our show, here at Chat Sports, we had Leatherwood as a guard. And as you can see, that's where we said that's where he's going to be better off playing. Latham is a big-bodied guy who can do all things very, very well. He's not the top right tackle that I'm going to target. But again, if you're the Raiders and you come out of this draft process and you're able to add a J.C. Latham, if I'm Las Vegas, then I consider trying to kick Thayer Munford in at guard where he's already played. I am looking to improve on the offensive line in the trenches this upcoming season. Coming up here, I got the top 5 players to target at pick number 13 for the Silver and Black, for Pierce, for Telesco. Before I get into those top 5 players, though, I do want to mention to the nation out there, for maybe some of the people that do not follow a lot of our live shows here, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a March Madness Duck-style race. It's going to be the first 64 Ducks are in. I need now 18 more people to join. Winner ends up getting $1,600. So if you like our duck races here, it's going to be 1v1. You got to win 6 races, just like March Madness, and then that ends up getting you to the big prize pot of $1,600. So if you want, you could scan this QR code right now, put Duck Race, March Madness, whatever you want to put in it, but it goes to the next 18 people. These spots are going to go quick, and once March Madness officially gets going on Thursday, I'm telling you, you're going to be sitting there, you're like, oh, man, I really, really wish I would have got into that. We're also going to do an actual March Madness bracket, but that's a whole nother story. Get in right now while we still got some spots left. You can scan this QR code with your phone, or you can add me as a friend at Mitchell Renz 365. Let's go to number 5 here on my list. It's Quinion Mitchell, and Mitchell continues to move up my board. He continues to move up the Raiders board. He was the best player at the Senior Bowl, and when I was talking to Graff and Wasted over the weekend about Mitchell, there was some hesitation on him because I know some people are like, oh, he went to a small school in Toledo. When you watch the tape on Mitchell, it kind of reminds me of like when you watch a really special player in high school. Like, I get it. The high school talent's not great. I get it. The talent he's going up against Toledo, not great. But when you are clearly the best player on the field, that stands out to me. Then you go to the Senior Bowl. Clearly the best player at the Senior Bowl. Have an unbelievable combine. His length, his toughness, his athletic ability, his strength, the intangibles, the measurables, it all checks out to being a legit number 1 corner, and I can't wait to see what Quinion Mitchell ends up doing in the NFL. Let's go to number 4 here. I'm going to go with Olu Fashanu at offensive tackle. And if the Raiders want to kick Colton Miller over to the right side, which he's actually played before, could be an option to do. Personally, I would really just trust Olu to be a left tackle. Does he have all the athletic ability in the world to be a solid left tackle in the NFL? Yes. His footwork to me scares me, which is why I don't know if I'm sold on the idea of taking a predominant left tackle, kicking him over to the right side. And because of that, like, I view Fashanu as being the number 2 offensive tackle in this year's draft behind only Joe Alt. However, the name that you're going to see coming up here next is not, I think that he's a better offensive tackle. He's a better right tackle. And when I do these rankings, it's based on the Raiders and their current needs. So if it's on the board and you're looking for clearly a right tackle, then I am going to take Talisi Fuaga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State, who also, some people believe, might be ending up playing guard. And if he ends up playing guard, you put him at right guard, you have Thayer Munford playing at right tackle. If Colton Miller is willing to play on the right side, and you can get Olu Fashanu, then I would actually swap Fashanu if you're looking for a left tackle, let's say. But Talisi Fuaga is a phenomenal run blocker. He's a physical guy, and like the style that he brings to the game is the style that I believe that the Raiders really want to focus on this year, and it's the, you're going to feel us. You're going to feel us every play. You're going to feel us every single snap, and by the end of it, you're going to be pretty damn sore. There's a lot of giggities in there. Let's go to number 2 here on my list, and it's cornerback Terrion Arnold. So, yes, I am saying that if Terrion Arnold, Talisi Fuaga were all on the board, I am taking Arnold at cornerback, who, from what I understand, is the Raiders' number 1 cornerback target. They loved him at the combine. They love his athletic ability. They love the fact that he's got that versatility where he's played corner. He's played a little bit of safety. They love the fact that he can play man. He can play zone. He's long. He's athletic. For the Raiders, and they are looking at a cornerback 1. The name that they're hoping to get is Terrion Arnold, and he would automatically be your best cornerback on your team. I was not sold on Arnold earlier this offseason. I've had to watch a little bit more tape on him, and I've continuously to watch tape on him, but what he brings to the table is like swagger, confidence, legit shutdown ability, and his upside to me is absolutely through the roof, which then means coming in here at number 1, it is offensive tackle from Notre Dame, Joe Alt. Notre Dame has done a phenomenal job of being able to build offensive tackle prospects, and I know Telesco loves them. Some offensive tackles especially, loves offensive linemen from Notre Dame, very smart players. Alt is on the left side. However, I don't care. Like, to me, I think Joe Alt, you can put him literally anywhere on the offensive line, and he's smart enough, he's good enough to make it happen. If you drafted Alt, I actually think that he would end up playing left tackle, and they would kick Colt Miller over to the right side because of how confident they are in Alt and how good of a prospect he is overall. Like, they don't make offensive tackles like this very often. Like, the last time that I graded an offensive tackle this high, you're looking at names like Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater. Alt, to me, is a legit top 6 overall prospect in this year's draft. And even though he is a left tackle, if I'm the Raiders and he's on the board at 13, that's the guy that I think that they're going to end up taking. So after all of that, everything that you just heard here, who do you think that the Raiders end up picking at number 13? So earlier in the show, I asked you, who do you want? Now this is your time where I want you to make your prediction. All in. Push all your chips in. Who do you think the Raiders end up picking at number 13 of the 2024 NFL Draft? There's definitely a few names that come to mind for me, and if I was going to move my chips in on the table, like, I know I have Joe Alt ranked at number 1, but he's not the player that I think is the most likely to be on the board at 13, and if I'm putting my money on somebody, right now, I'm probably going to put my money on Terrion Arnold. If you're looking at corner, to me, the corner that has the most likely of a chance to get drafted by the Raiders is Terrion Arnold. If you're like, no, we're not going to go corner, you're looking at an offensive tackle, that next name then to me is Talisi Fuaga, who plays right tackle out on the West Coast and has said that he's got some family members that are Raider fans and would love to be able to play for this organization. So between Terrion Arnold and Talisi Fuaga, those to me are the top 2 most likely to be picked. If the Raiders are going to target a quarterback, the quarterback that I believe is the most likely to be picked at 13 is Michael Penix Jr. I don't know if J.J. McCarthy is going to be on the board at 13, and the more and more stories that come out make me believe that he's going to be gone in the top 10 picks, which I really, really hope that he is. And if it comes down to QB, just based on what I think is the most likely, Michael Penix Jr. is a name to keep in mind. To stay up to date on the latest going on around this team, hit me up on IG, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, all that type of good stuff. At Mitchell Renz 365. I'm going to do my best to keep you guys up to date on the Raiders, and we will be live for the NFL Draft, so make sure you're tuned in because it's going to be a hell of a time here on the Raiders Report.